Welcome to the Sealed Pages.
We find ourselves, once again, drawn back to the quiet, penetrating work of Feroz Anka. He's an author whose exploration of the contemporary human condition. It manages to be both structurally so precise and just profoundly resonant.
Absolutely. I think Anka's unique contribution is his ability to translate the logic of the modern system, digital architecture, the pressure for efficiency, into a philosophical diagnosis of the self.
And we've had the privilege of exploring his work before. It always provides more of a sense of orientation than, simple answers. We talked about his poetic philosophical journey, Lines of the Void.
Right, which really challenged us to look at symbols and time and ask if we're actually inhabiting reality or just the maps we draw for ourselves.
And then more recently, that deep conversation we had around his prose poems, What Remains Within.
Oh, that collection really held up a mirror to the unspoken languages of grief, of shame, and I think crucially, that incredibly fragile strength of a faith that just somehow manages to survive, even in ruins.
It's the work of an author who is so keenly aware of the structured world, the world of algorithms, of digital transformation, but who uses that very precision to examine the inherently unstructured world of human consciousness. It's almost like a metaphysical systems analysis.
And today's deep dive is into his philosophical psychological essay, What Remains of Humanity in Modern Times, a fragmented diary of disorder. This text, it feels less like an argument the author makes at you, and more like a conversation he's forcing you to have with yourself.
It really does. It functions as an intellectual challenge. Anka's writing is always aimed at that quiet crisis, and this entire work orbits a single, provocative, and, I have to say, deeply unsettling question that's posed directly to you, the listener.
And that question is, are you truly living or merely being updated?
Exactly. Living versus updating.
That distinction is just.
Yeah.
It's key to the book's entire architecture. He doesn't structure it like a linear treatise. Instead, he calls it a fragmented diary of disorder, framing it as an anatomy of the human quietly dissolving in the glittering chaos of the modern world.
And that fragmentation is so intentional. The text is built from these shattered aphorisms, short, sharp observations, even unfinished sentences. Anka actually explains that this mirrors the subject matter. He says, the age itself is unfinished. So you're not getting a complete solution. You're witnessing a consciousness trying to hold itself together while everything outside is pulling it apart.
And this fragmented form allows the 6 parts of the book to trace the layers of a deeply scattered inner life. It moves from the pressure to be, superhumanly self-sufficient, through the architecture of technological control, right down to that quiet search for meaning. It really is an autopsy of our modern condition.
Before we step inside the text itself, I think it's worth just lingering for a moment on the cover. It speaks volumes. It offers this immediate emotional palette for the landscape we're about to enter.
It's immediately striking, isn't it? A really powerful piece of visual rhetoric. You see this clear human silhouette, but the inside of the figure isn't solid at all. It's fractured, broken up into thousands of these tiny pixel-like fragments.
Yeah.
And that immediately symbolizes the modern self, scattered into these data-shaped pieces under the relentless digital acceleration of our time.
That fractured interior, that's the emotional key, I think. It so beautifully captures the central theme. Our inner wholeness being torn to shreds by everything. Productivity calendars, performance metrics, the endless digital identities we have to maintain.
It's a visual argument that the human is no longer a whole living subject, but, as he puts it, a watched data point.
And the colors.
Yes, the color palette reinforces that sense of urgent, beautiful chaos. You have this vibrant clash of orange, teal, and this electric yellow. It's the visual embodiment of this fragmented diary of disorder.
It is. It speaks to urgency, to overload, to constant noise, and also that kind of unstable electric beauty that defines our lives now. It just perfectly captures the emotional noise floor of our era. And if you look closely, you notice those broken, pixelated pieces. They seem to be rising from, or maybe falling back into, the figure's chest. For me, that's the quiet metaphor for the book's entire mission. The search for what remains human. The heart. The true self. Beneath all the shattered expectations and the punishing demands of hyper-performance.
And when you move from that cover into the book's opening, the themes of speed and self-alienation land instantly. Anka opens with this desolate echo of loss, setting such a profound tone. He says, "There was a voice, and it fell silent. There was a heart, and it grew weary.
That phrase grew weary is so important. It establishes that the starting point for this whole deep dive is a condition of spiritual exhaustion. We haven't just lost something. We've been worn down by the sheer velocity of the modern world until our interior rhythm has just given out.
And then comes that painful paradox that defines our time. Then everything sped up, but nothing moved forward.
Right.
We have hyper-efficiency, we have instant communication, but there's no real spiritual or communal progress to match it. We are mistaking sheer speed for genuine direction.
And the symptom of this is the erasure of the authentic I. Anka keenly observes this modern reversal of identity. He writes, "Once we said I, now we say profile."
We define ourselves by the external presentation, the edited profile, instead of the internal being. It's a complete shift in our center of gravity.
And this has such a palpable cost to intimacy, to connection. That line, hearts are offline, souls in airplane mode. I mean, it's almost painfully relatable, isn't it?
It is. We have the technology to connect with everyone, but we keep this internal defensive distance. We ration our true presence.
But he emphasizes early on that this text wasn't written to condemn the human, but to remind them once more that they are human. And this is so crucial to his compassionate tone. It's an act of remembrance, a philosophical intervention designed to jog the memory of the soul.
He does offer this quiet hope, suggesting that even as we were crushed under the speed we created, the slowest thing to disappear was the heart.
But the diagnosis is still unflinching. He identifies the quiet catastrophe, the shift from life to just display. He writes, "No one dies anymore. Everyone slowly fades away. And this is modernity's greatest achievement."
That fading away is the most unsettling part. It suggests this slow, almost imperceptible erosion of meaning, a loss of inner luster amid the constant demand for external output and visibility. It's not an acute disaster, it's a chronic condition.
Exactly, and that culminates in this painful paradox that frames the whole book.
The human knows everything, yet feels nothing. They manage time, yet lose their own inner time.
They display themselves, yet cannot become visible to themselves. We are saturated with information, we're experts in managing systems, but we're starved of genuine feeling. The human becomes reduced to a watched data point whose only purpose is input and output.
It's a powerful setup. It highlights that the problem isn't a lack of resources or information.
No, it's a catastrophic failure of inner integration.
So this diagnosis of exhaustion, of self-alienation, gives us the perfect entry point into part one, Weary God Syndrome.
I love that title.
It's perfect. Anka uses this term to analyze the cultural mandate of self-sufficiency, the belief that the individual must be limitless and endlessly optimized.
And this is where the psychological pressure of the age takes on an almost religious weight. The core command, which I think is internalized by almost everyone in the modern economy, is this: you must be like a god, strong, limitless, tireless.
Right. It suggests any limitation is a personal failure, not just a structural reality of being human.
And the immediate tragic consequence of this is the inability to admit weakness, or, as Anka puts it, the inability to pray. If you're told you're the architect of your own universe, why would you ever need help?
And he quotes a sacred text here that is so sharp. The human truly transgresses because he sees himself as self-sufficient.
Rich and sufficient unto himself. That concept, the transgression of self-sufficiency, it's so insightful because it turns a psychological start into an existential dilemma. It creates what he calls the curse of being divine.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, the exhaustion comes from the fact that if God does not make mistakes, then making an error means you aren't just a flawed human, you're a failed God. Perfection becomes this non-negotiable creed. Error isn't a lesson anymore, it's a sin.
But wait, let me just play devil's advocate for a second here. Anka is suggesting this boundless potential leads only to exhaustion. But the entire structure of the modern world tech, the economy, it all runs on the promise of limitless innovation, the celebration of the individual genius. Aren't ambition and striving necessary for progress? Is he maybe being too sweeping in his condemnation?
That's a necessary challenge, and I think Anka would agree that striving is essential. But he's focused on the internalization of that mandate, the psychological toll it takes. The irony he explores is just crushing. Individuals are told they're the architect of their own universe, but this imagined omnipotence leads only to exhaustion. The human who thinks of themselves as a creative force has actually become the slave of the very system they created.
The system keeps moving, and our status as gods compels us to keep feeding it. I see the anxiety he's talking about, that pressure of infinite potential. If your potential is boundless, then every pause is a crime, every lack a humiliation.
It's a condemnation to endless striving. Stopping for a moment produces profound guilt, not rest.
And that divine burden, it crystallizes into what he calls the god of performance, which he diagnoses as the new religion of the age.
Yes. Time itself is now fully commodified, meticulously squeezed into a planner that becomes, the new holy book. The god of the modern age is productivity.
And the rituals of this new religion are everywhere. We see the mandated morning routines, the optimized mindfulness sessions, which are often just another performance metric.
Right, the daily goals, the evening productivity reports, even the bizarre need to optimize fatigue through expensive gadgets or curated rest. As Anka puts it, nothing is done merely to be, everything is done for a result.
This is a system where the fear isn't failure in the traditional sense.
No, it's appearing idle. That's the real sin. Your entire self is measured by KPIs. You are constantly monitoring, adjusting, reporting.
And this performance anxiety extends deep into the inner world, which Anka analyzes under the master of emotions. This is a deeply psychological part of the book.
And the core observation is just devastating. The modern human no longer lives their emotions, they manage them, and everything that is managed will one day grow alien.
If you manage something, you treat it as an external resource, a tool, or an inconvenience, not as part of you.
Exactly. Emotions are reduced to an emotional data set to be optimized. We become the CEOs of our inner world, relentlessly minimizing sadness and maximizing happiness. Happiness becomes a project plan. Sorrow becomes a software bug to be debugged.
Quickly, which creates this toxic command underlying the entire culture. You have to feel good. Pain is now forbidden. It's seen as an enemy of productivity, a sign of core emotional management.
And when a crisis happens, the focus shifts immediately to how could you have expressed this in a healthier way, rather than addressing the cause of the pain itself.
The consequence is that trauma becomes permanent, not only because it was experienced, but because it was unfelt. You're forced to get a resilience certificate for every part of yourself, effectively suppressing genuine feeling to maintain the facade of function.
And this all leads to the God who cannot pray. Because if you genuinely believe you are capable of everything, asking for help from another person or from a higher power is a confession of incompleteness. And incompleteness in this system is failure.
Right. Anka sees prayer not as a list of requests, but as a confession of humility, a voluntary bowing of the heart. When that language is forgotten, it's replaced by intention phrases and manifest lists.
We're basically placing orders with the universe instead of turning to the divine in surrender.
But the brilliance here is that the return to humanity is found precisely in that act of asking. The true courage isn't in omnipotence, it's in vulnerability, in saying, I don't know, I'm sorry, or would you help me? Prayer, he argues, is the etiquette of saying, I could not be.
It's renouncing the exhausting role of the omnipotent individual.
And the closing motto of this section is so beautifully tender. It offers a way out. I accepted my insufficiency, and my heart fit into its place.
That acceptance is the transformation, moving away from the relentless pressure of performance to the quiet, dignified belonging of just being human.
That acceptance, though, it immediately bumps up against the reality of the external world, which Anka analyzes in part 2, the showcase of busyness. He instantly critiques busyness, defining it as a spectacle, a secular worship.
My favorite, a noise phobia of the fear of depth.
It's fascinating how busyness has become the modern human shield. Anka notes that we run precisely to avoid hearing ourselves. We kill time, and then we spend the rest of our frantic energy trying to resurrect it.
Saying I'm so busy has become the new mark of nobility, hasn't it? A self-congratulatory status symbol.
And we pay a steep price for it. Busyness trades intimacy for a rigid schedule, depth for a crowded agenda. It makes us feel complete just by looking full, even when we're profoundly hollow inside. The value of emptiness used to be, the quality of your gaze, the capacity for reflection.
But now looking into emptiness is forbidden, because the silent, still person can't be quantified or measured.
And this relentless pace pushes us toward a state of psychological exhaustion he calls a recess beneath the screen. The screen itself isn't a window onto the world, but a curtain that imitates light while systematically eating the rhythm of your being.
Our attention is currency, yes, but money is spent. Attention is absorbed. We're being shaved away by every swipe, every scroll.
I think we all recognize that feeling of being drained after a day of consumption, even when we haven't done anything. The remedy he offers is so simple it feels revolutionary.
Which is?
Recognizing that breath is the human's fundamental share break that doesn't need to be earned. Emptiness is not a collapse, but a necessary air pocket. where the true self can fit and an inner voice can finally seep out.
This leads to the idea of daring to stop time. Anka suggests that in this hyper-accelerated age, to simply stop to cease production is perhaps the most revolutionary act available.
Time, he points out, has stopped being a natural flow and become a unit of trade. Can I take a minute of your time? We consume minutes, we divide them, we sell them.
And the reason we run so hard, he claims, is that we are running from time itself, because to stop time is to confront yourself.
If you stop, you have to face the state of your inner life. And that confrontation is terrifying when you've spent years building a profile, not a soul.
The illusion is that the tighter we squeeze time, the more we can control it. But he reminds us that the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Time isn't a resource to be used. It is a presence to be approached.
And this frantic external search culminates in the physical act of staying connected, which becomes existential in one last screen before shutting down. The screen becomes the new mirror, the new barometer of existence. To exist is now defined by your connection status.
The phone vibrating in your hand becomes the substitute for prayer. It whispers, "I am still here, see me." The addiction is so powerful your hand refuses to turn it off, convinced that something essential will be missed.
And this is where Anka provides a moment of unexpected clarity. True visibility begins only when the screen goes dark. In the reflection of that black glass, you see your own face, maybe for the first time that day, realizing the only thing separating you from the device is the power cord that keeps the machine running.
Moving into part 3, Anka zeroes in on the central psychological crisis that underpins all this frantic activity, beginning with the section on a lack we cannot name.
It's that feeling of a profound internal dislocation that I think so many listeners will immediately recognize. It's not identifiable pain, and it's certainly not joy, but a vague sense of something having shifted out of place, leaving a hollow inside us that echoes when we stop.
Anka diagnoses us as the generation of hunger inside plenty. The lack isn't scarcity, it's this terrifying experience of drowning in excess. It's a kind of blinded saturation where we have everything, information, goods, potential, but we can't digest anything meaningful. The soul feels like an overfilled plate that's lost its ability to taste.
And the collective defense mechanism against this hunger is just constant avoidance. We flee the deeper question, what have I become? Because the realization that everything is a lie, that the life we built on performance metrics is hollow, would trigger an inner revolution. We are constantly deferring that confrontation.
And this lack is deeply intertwined with how reality itself is manufactured and presented to us. Anka's section on perception and control analyzes how our environment is engineered to keep us compliant. He writes, "Reality was recoded. A veil was drawn between what you see and what you believe."
That recoding is the core deception. We used to rely on seeing was believing, but now the goal is just being seen is enough. And the crucial factor is that the hand holding your finger, shaping your perception, feeding you curated desires, is unseen. The system guides, it doesn't command, so we have the illusion of freedom while we obediently follow manufactured paths.
And this manufactured reality leads to profound relational decay, which he addresses in The Crowd That Lost Its Voice. Loneliness, Anka observes, is not a lack of people, but the haunting echo of not being truly heard. Communication has deteriorated into a digital echo chamber where everyone seeks approval, not genuine understanding.
The compulsion to be visible is desperate. We are condemned to visibility. He has this line, "A million eyes on you, yet not a single gaze passes through you."
It's a constant performance for an audience that doesn't really care. And the painful irony is that to achieve this illusion of permanence, to be recorded, seen, remembered, we erase ourselves little by little through constant curated sharing. We trade our internal being for external representation.
This also contaminates our intimate lives, which he examines in relationships, breaking while we bond. Anka makes a sharp distinction. We access each other, we do not truly touch. Our relationships are maintained along the surface, dependent on signal strength and ease of access.
The profound danger here is the risk of silence. Modern relationships are systematically eroded by what goes unsaid, by the vulnerability we refuse to risk. The protective whisper becomes, "It hurts less to be alone." So loneliness becomes this forced, necessary return inward, a painful refuge.
And this external validation loop defines our professional identity, leading to weary achievements, hollow victories. Success, Anka argues, is no longer completion or arrival, but the start of an endless obligatory cycle. Every victory makes the next success mandatory.
The winner, unlike the loser, is never permitted to stop, and the cost is inner diminishment. We win and diminish. We climb and collapse inward. Success is defined entirely by external approval, which is a hunger that can never be filled.
The true resistance, the true victory, Anka concludes, is when you finally stop needing to succeed and you turn inward, recognizing that the only approval that matters is your own.
Part 4 shifts our focus to the mechanics of control, under the title The Age of Self-Surveillance. Anka notes this sinister architectural shift. The eye of surveillance has moved inside. The system now relies on the individual becoming their own guard and broadcaster.
This is the truly brilliant move of modern control, isn't it? The ultimate fear is no longer being watched by the system, but rather not being seen by the crowd.
Consciousness mutates into self-monitoring, which produces control and compliance, not clarity or self-awareness.
It's that inner panopticon we talked about. We censor ourselves preemptively, driven by the fear of looking wrong or being deemed unproductive. We act as if we are always being evaluated, constantly producing controlled data points.
And this continuous recording destroys genuine feeling and organic memory. Anka observes that tiredness is a signal, a sigh is information. Our entire humanity just dissolves in sub-second data, sacrificing itself for its micro-reactions and digital output.
His insight on memory is maybe one of the most sobering in the book. He argues that recording is the technology not of remembering, but of forgetting in an organized way.
Everything is kept, backed up, archived, yet nothing is allowed to age, settle, or be truly remembered deep in the heart. The digital archive, in this sense, becomes the graveyard of feeling, not its preservation.
And the self we present in this environment must be heavily edited. Anka's The Filtered Self reveals that a filter isn't just an aesthetic tool, it's an ideology. It's a physical manifestation of the cult of perfection.
The inner complicated self is replaced by the aesthetic of efficiency. He grounds us again by reminding us that truth always glows best in low contrast.
Let's transition into Part 5, Slaves of the Attention Economy, which details the architectural systems that keep us scattered. This section names the new mining operation clearly. It's attention.
The mind is fundamentally repurposed. It's no longer a resting place, a site of contemplation, but a constant server. Attention is the currency being mined. You spend it freely, every moment of every day, generating profit for the system while generating exhaustion for yourself.
And Anka identifies the sharpest form of modern slavery as the one we willingly sustain out of the visceral fear of being offline, FOMO, fear of missing out, which is truly the new whip of the digital age. It's the anxiety that compels continuous, self-imposed digital labor.
And the great enemy of this entire scattered system, Anka observes, is inner silence. The attention economy must keep you scattered, distracted, and ever active, because the act of stillness, the act of thinking, has the potential to unravel the entire infrastructure of manufactured desire.
This scattering mechanism is perfectly illustrated in the empty ritual of scroll meditation, hell up and down. We lower the finger to scroll, imitating an act of religious observance, moving constantly but remaining profoundly unfed.
Anka suggests that this looping, constant movement is a form of modern hell. Scrolling up and down are the same, producing the illusion of movement without any real depth, spiritual progress, or arrival, as he warns. You cannot rise by scrolling up.
And to understand our compliance, we have to understand the neurological engine that drives it, which Anka calls the dopamine cathedral. The temple is built from neurological circuits, and its worship is governed entirely by the reward loop.
Dopamine, he notes, is the chemistry of possibility, the anticipation of what you might get in a moment, not the chemistry of lasting joy. It's the constant promise of the next notification, the next connection, the next input.
And we confuse these temporary chemical spikes with the feeling of being truly alive, constantly seeking stimulation instead of genuine, slow-burn happiness. Our internal landscape is governed by the brain acting as the priest of dopamine, listening to receptors instead of wisdom.
It's the ultimate feedback loop. The world promises infinite potential, demands endless busyness to achieve it, and uses a biochemical reward system to keep us scrolling through the resulting confusion.
The final two major sections of the essay turn toward the difficult path back to inner integration. Part 6. The Truth That Itches Within addresses the cultural phenomena of voluntary blindness.
This is where Anka critiques the aestheticization of our values. He observes what he calls the market stall of consumed values, where ethics is 20% off, and goodness or morality is often performed purely for visibility, what he labels Instagrammic mercy.
We are seeking comfortable meanings, meaningless comforts. And Anka labels us the conscious ignorant, those who know what is true, but choose voluntary blindness because reality is inconvenient or emotionally costly.
He discusses the silencing of mercy. Mercy didn't die, he argues. It was buried under a massive layer of numbness and then relabeled as rationality or inefficiency. We use our busyness as the excuse to avoid feeling another's pain, because feeling requires time and emotional expense.
This avoidance extends to our spiritual lives in the age of faithless faiths. The sacred is commodified. Gods became brands. Faith is often confused with awareness. It must be risk-free, demanding no sacrifice, only that you feel good about yourself.
And the consequence is profound. We end up with beliefs, but no surrender, no direction, no genuine anchor. Anka challenges this comfortable spiritual position directly. If a god never unsettles you, perhaps he is of your own invention.
True faith, he insists, is tested by fire and demands the courage to be thoroughly shaken.
And this intellectual and spiritual clarity finally leads us to the final necessary segment. Return home, focusing on the path to rehumanization. The transformation, Anka argues, begins when we stop trying to be divine and embrace our limitations.
Accepting insufficiency is not, he suggests, a loss of rank or status, but a crucial gaining of belonging to the human community. Anka insists, to be human is a braver choice than to be a god.
And the signs of this brave return are found in the simplest sentences, the courage to say, I don't know, I'm sorry, or would you help me?
These sentences, short as they are great revolutions in the human soul because they dismantle the entire architecture of self-sufficiency.
The final insight Anka offers is that true strength is not found in being sufficient, but in loving your inherent insufficiency. The greatest discovery, he concludes, is this. To be human is to remain whole by daring to remain unfinished.
That concept, remaining whole by remaining unfinished, that's the key to escaping the relentless loop of performance. It is a quiet collapse that's the necessary precursor to genuine healing.
And it concludes with Anka's quiet reflection on a prayer left over from humanity. He suggests that technology and noise have hushed it, but somewhere, a heart still whispers the essential truth. He suggests the last sentence of humanity might simply be the whisper, help.
Prayer, in this context, is simply the language that generates nearness. It is the ultimate affirmation of presence. It is telling yourself, I am still here, and I am not enough. And in that confession, the heart finally fits back into its proper human place.
What remains of humanity in modern times is, in the end, a stunning architectural achievement. Its fragmented form perfectly mirrors the fractured consciousness it analyzes, moving with intense precision from the exhausting idol of speed and performance to the quiet, dignified discovery of the heart within.
It's a profound and necessary guide for the highly functional individual who looks around at their achievements and still feels that nameless lack inside. It is for you, the listener, who is saturated with information and efficiency, but starved for meaning. It offers knowledge not as a weapon to achieve more, but as a clear, unflinching mirror to understand what has been lost and what can still be recovered.
This book is for the contemplative, soul-seeking orientation, not a rigid map, and willing to embrace the courage required to be imperfect and, crucially, unfinished. It functions exactly as intended. It resolves nothing externally, but it makes perfectly visible what has come undone internally, leaving you with that haunting, fundamental choice to be truly living or merely online.
And this leaves us with one final thought, a provocative question for you to consider as you reflect on this deep dive. If, as Anka suggests, the slowest thing to disappear in this age of acceleration was the heart, what is the fastest way back to its natural, patient rhythm?